Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This is the video series 1, part 3. In this part, I would like to share with you some examples how the fundamental problems in physics and cosmology are solved in the new philosophy system. In the second video series, I will share with you more explanations and more examples. Let me start in a historical context. Most of the basic physics concepts that we use today come from the ancient Greece. For this presentation, I pick up the concept of atoms of Lesbos as the starting point of physics, but this is arbitrary. Aristotle did a lot of work on physics. He proposed the model of 5 elements and the model of 4 causes. To me, the biggest contribution of Aristotle to physics and to science in general are 2 things. First, his 5 philosophical concepts. Second, his approach from experience to prior. Aristotle established a perfect framework for physics and for science in general, but also put a ceiling for their further development. Physics experienced a golden time in the beginning of 20th century, with many new experimental discoveries and new theories. To me, some of the new physics theories represent an unprecedented challenge to the systems of Aristotle and to the basic physics concept of the ancient Greeks. For instance, the statistical mechanics of Boltzmann tells us that it doesn't make sense to trace every individual, especially in a microscopic level. The blackbody radiation of Planck tells us that light is made of small elements. The general relativity of Einstein tells us that interaction can impact clock speed. The quantum mechanics, quantum entanglement of Bohr and others tells us that the microworld is uncertain. The physicists, including Einstein and Bohr, in that time didn't realize that they touched the ceiling of Aristotle. Physicists after that period tried to find escapes by turning themselves more and more to mathematics, experiments, and applications. To me, this is a strong sign that physics is dying. I'm lucky. After years of struggling, I finally went beyond the ceiling of Aristotle. The new philosophy system gave me a very powerful means. I redefined the basic concept in physics, established some laws for the physics and the cosmologies, and solved some existing fundamental problems. In this video series, I will share with you some examples. Let me start with the new definition of time and space in the new series. Time converts the will of individual happiness of each existence to its will of individual efficiency. Space converts the will of group disaster of each existence to its will of group efficiency. On the top part of the joint, time pushes will from quadrant 1 to quadrant 2. On the bottom part of the joint, space pushes the will from quadrant 4 to quadrant 3. The definitions are very simple, but their consequences are far-reaching. Time and space have a long list of properties. I list two key properties here. First, the time and space clock linked every existence to the evolution of the universe. Second, the speed of time and space clock of an existence equals to its relative disorder. The clock speed of everything is related to the status of the thing in the evolution process of the universe. The new definitions solved many problems in sciences. Let me share with you a few examples. First, every existence has its own time and space clocks. A photon has its own time and space clocks. A human being has its own time and space clocks. The universe has its own time and space clocks. Second, as you know, we use a standard clock for our daily life and work, but you and I could have a different time feeling. It's called psychology time. In a new series, all the time definitions in physics, biology, and psychology are unified. Third, in a new series, any interaction of an existence with its environment influences the speed of the time and space clocks of the existence. For instance, a person falling in love gets a different time feeling. Gravity interacts with an atomic clock and changes its speed. As you may know, in a general relativity of Einstein, gravity changes the speed of time clock. The explanation of Einstein is that gravity twists the time and space, lead to change in the clock speed. The explanation of Einstein is incorrect. Gravity simply interacts with the clock and changes its speed. General relativity is an equivalent description of the impact of gravity on time clock. I will explain this in more details in part 3 of video series 2. Let me talk a little bit about our universe. As you may know, the most popular scientific explanation on the creation of the universe is the Big Bang theory. According to this theory, when a space of 11 dimensions collapsed, the universe is created from a mathematical singularity with nothing in it. The theory explains some cosmology phenomena, but you really need a lot of imagination to think of the physics process here. In the new philosophy theory, the 5 universal laws generate automatically a cyclic model of the universe and its mirror universe. The supersymmetry in time and space shapes the cyclic model of the universe and its mirror universe. On the joint, you can see the cycling of the universe and its mirror universe. The universe starts at the right side and ends at the left side. The mirror universe will then start and will end at the right side. The direction of time and space reverses at the start and at the end point of the universe. At these 2 points, the time clock of the universe or the mirror universe becomes invalid. There's a huge asymmetry between order and disorder. Quantum oscillations in such a circumstance will lead to time reversion. In general, the principles of the universe theory applies to the universe and mirror universe. One of the consequences is that the conditions in the mirror universe don't meet the requirements to start a biological process there. I spent several chapters in my book on the universe and its mirror universe. In part 7 of video series 2, I will explain in more details about the cycling of the universe and its mirror universe. Here is a list of definitions of all the stuff in the universe. Energy is released or free disorder. Mass is constrained order and disorder. Conversion of mass to energy is that constrained disorder is released. Conversion of energy to mass is that a part of the free disorder is converted into constrained disorder and a part into constrained order. Gravity is produced by constrained order. Nuclear forces is produced by constrained disorder. Electromagnetic force is produced by disorder with great individualism. I discussed the definition and their consequences for physics in my book. They are more relevant for physicists and students in physics. For the general audience, it is important to be aware that the new definition have big consequences for physics and cosmology. I made some philosophical models for subjects in science in my book. I didn't use mathematics for the model because this is a philosophical book. Philosophy is the foundation of all the sciences, but should never be a replacement of any sciences. Just for fun, I made an estimation of matters, dark matters, and dark energy in the universe. In the bottom of the drawing, you see my estimation. I got 10% for matters, 30% for dark matters, and 60% for dark energy. They are not so bad when compared with the estimation of physicists. I discussed some hot physics and cosmology subjects such as black hole, dark matter, and dark energy in my book. I will explain them in some details in part 8 of video series 2. As you may know, there was a historical debate in early 1920s between Einstein and Bohr on quantum mechanics, especially on quantum entanglement. The debate is actually never ended. Simple to say, until today, nobody really understands quantum mechanics and quantum entanglement. From the point of view of my new philosophy theory, Both Einstein and Bohr didn't realize that not every event in the universe should obey the causality law of Aristotle. They also didn't understand that the certainty principle of Aristotle and Plato is not valid for quantum system. In a new philosophy theory, if the change of the wheelbox of a system in an event doesn't change the relation between disorder and order of the wheelbox, the event doesn't need to obey the time-related causality law, or you can say the event happens instantly. Also in the new philosophy theory, the certainty principle of Aristotle and Plato are not valid. Quantum mechanics is about wave oscillation at a micro level. There are two basic wave oscillation modes. The first oscillation mode is shown on the top joint. The wavebox of a photon or particle is oscillating along the axis perpendicular to the axis of time. You see the time axis in the bottom of the joint. The oscillation doesn't change the relation between disorder and order of the wavebox. It doesn't need to obey the time-related causality law, or it happens instantly. This oscillation mode is basically the wave-particle duality in quantum mechanics. It explains also the behavior of a photon when it is absorbed. The second oscillation mode is shown on the bottom joint. The wavebox of a photon or particle is oscillating along the time axis. It needs to obey the time-related causality law, or it takes time. This oscillation mode is basically the Heisenberg uncertainty principle in quantum mechanics. The Heisenberg uncertainty principle is not only for the relation between momentum and position, but also for the relation between energy and potential energy. In the new theory, quantum entanglement doesn't change the relation between disorder and order of a wavebox. It doesn't need to obey the time-related causality law, or it happens instantly. When two entangled photons are produced from one photon, as shown on the top left joint, the individualism of the wavebox of the photon system is enlarged. The new wave conservation law requires reduction in disorder and order of the wavebox. The wavebox of the photon system is changed from 2 to 1 on the joint. The energy of the photon is reduced, its structure is weakened. The energy and the angular momentum conservation laws become invalid. When one of the two entangled photons is detected, as shown on the top right joint, the individualism of the wavebox of the photon system is reduced. The wavebox of the photon system is changed from 1 to 2 on the joint. The energy and the structure of the photon systems are restored, but now among two photons. The energy and the angular momentum conservation laws are restored. Information about these two photons are shared instantly among the two photons. As you can see from the drawing in the bottom, the wave conservation law governs the whole quantum entanglement process. For the two entangled photons as shown between the green and the red bars, the quantum superposition law, the angular momentum conservation law, and the energy conservation law are invalid. Physicists are used to relate a symmetry in something to a conservation law in something else. But why? Nobody can tell. The new philosophy theory gives the explanation. First, symmetry is a representation of the governing wills. If you see a symmetry on something, it tells you the governing will of the thing. In the drawing, I list the relation between a symmetry and its governing will. Second, every physics theory is governed by a certain will. For instance, quantum mechanics and the existing gauge theory are governed by the will of individual happiness. General relativity is governed by the will of group efficiency. There exists no gauge theory that is governed by the will of group disaster. The only moment of the universe is dominated with the will of group disaster. There is no theory on it. The relation between physics law and symmetry has many consequences. I list three here. First, it doesn't make sense to unify general relativity and quantum mechanics. This conclusion is also supported by the fact that general relativity and quantum mechanics played an opposite role in the evolution of the universe. General relativity speeds up the evolution of the universe. Quantum mechanics slow down the evolution of the universe. Second, the current gauge theory describes only individual particles, but not the only moment of the universe. The only moment of the universe is dominated by the will of group disaster. The gauge theory is governed by the will of individual happiness. Third, experiments at the particle colliders cannot simulate the only moment of the universe. What high-energy physics really needs today is a dramatic change in concept, both in theory and experiment. In part 6 of video series 2, I will share with you more about this. With this remark, I would like to close part 3 of video series 1. Thank you for your attention.